Welcome to the 2mics 2djs and Fatty's FunHouse ReMixx show.
Oh, yeah.
Here are your hosts, Dave and Jon.
I'm your boy, Uncle Fatty, John Vincent. Next to me, Dave Olivieri. I got it right this time. For years, I thought it was Oliveri.
It's everybody, man. I grew up with that. Yo, it's your boy DJ Davo over here at Fatty's FunHouse. I'm from 2mics 2djs. You can find us on social media. Check it out. If you haven't seen it already, our last juncture together was with the Roar of Lemoore, Mr. Chuck K. If you're into heavy metal from the 1980s, Chuck was the head DJ at a very influential club in New York. We had a wonderful 2-hour interview with him. Strolled down memory lane. It was wonderful just catching up with him, seeing how he's doing. John met him for the first time. We're hoping sometime that with his health permitting, we can get him over here to the Funhouse for a live, in-depth interview.
We're looking at probably sometime May, June-ish, depending on how things are in Chuckles Land.
In Chuckles Land is no joke. But we wanted to continue with that rock and roll theme tonight, and because it's been in the news today, well, not today, but recently, we wanted to talk about classic bands that have changed their lead singers, and our opinions of it, and maybe go down the little rabbit hole of some of the bands that had their lead singers changed, and maybe even talk about like whether they were more successful with the original singer, more successful with the replacement singer, or maybe they were just as equally successful with both. We got a few names on the list here, and I think it should be an interesting little chat.
Yeah, so kicking it off tonight. So what do you think about the Van Halen, Sammy, David Lee Roth?
You got the Van Hagar, you got the David Lee Roth camp. Now, I know a lot of it's going to depend on when you first heard Van Halen. Now, of course, I'm old. I heard them back when David Lee Roth was in the band. I am partial to the David Lee Roth era of Van Halen, but I cannot say that the Sammy Hagar time was not quality, because a lot of great rock and roll came out of that time period. And as much as you might be pro David Lee Roth or whatnot, you cannot deny that Sammy and the boys put out some great music.
They absolutely did.
And I know Gary Sharon from Extreme, a great singer. I know he did one album with him. I'm not really familiar with that album. I really wish I could comment more. If any of you guys have heard that album, leave your comments down in the comments section. Let us know what you thought of it. Maybe you could teach me something.
Now, Gary Sharon was the last new member of Van Halen, aside from Eddie's son Wolfgang.
Right.
He did the one album.
Right, Van Halen 3.
Right. I heard a couple of cuts off of it. Not really sure of titles or whatever. He sounded good.
He is a great singer.
He is a great singer, energetic.
I love him with Extreme.
Absolutely, and he kind of has a little bit of Roth in him as far as showmanship goes.
Okay.
But Sammy, I mean, listen,
he was with them for a long time. You can't deny that.
I grew up on the Roth era too, but I was always a big fan of Sammy Hagar.
I mean, he was the Red Rocker before he became, a member of Van Halen.
Right.
And he had an illustrious career with Montrose before that. So, I mean, again, Sammy coming on, I didn't see that coming. Like, again, a guy like David Lee Roth, who's a real showman, and he also, if you listen to some of their older stuff, they had some of these like jazzy kind of like Big Bad Bill's Sweet William Now. Like, those are cool tunes, but I wouldn't say those show Eddie Van Halen's astute guitar playing,
No, definitely not. And then, Ice Cream Man, that's always
right. Ice Cream Man. I don't think Ice Cream Man would have worked with Sammy.
No.
I think that had to be a Dave song. So, my era, I prefer the Van Halen with the David Lee Roth. It's a little kitschier. It's a little goofier. I think Sammy was definitely a lot more rock and roll, more rock and roll than David Lee Roth was. But I got to give it to Dave, man. I am an entertainer at heart, and I do kind of miss the splits and some of the dumb shit he used to do on stage.
Well, his showmanship is second to none.
Yeah.
That
again,
goes without saying.
Not to take nothing away from Sammy.
No, but when you're at a David Lee Roth Van Halen show, you were getting a show.
Right. Right.
And you're right.
Big inflatable microphone. If you could ride that bitch around the stage, I get it.
He was a Diamond Dave, you know what I mean?
Diamond Dave.
Crazy Shit was his middle name.
This is true. Now, the next band on our list is Motley Crue. Now, most people realize that Vince was the main singer for most of Motley Crue's career, but there was a short window, and one album was released with singer John Corabi. And John is no slouch either. I mean, he's a guy, he's got deep rock and roll roots, and he's no slouch as far as his vocal and guitar playing abilities.
That's true.
So the question then becomes, well, which version of Motley Crue was more effective? Now, if you're a classic Crue fan, the Motley Crue album that John Corabi sings on is very different than any of Crue's earlier stuff.
More street.
More street. It was definitely had like a kind of a 90s sound. It was definitely an interesting direction. Less glam.
Yeah.
But I thought it was an exciting time. I thought that they might put out more than just one album with John Corabi. But as history turns out, Vince joined the band again. And ever since Vince has been back in the band, people have been saying, well, maybe his performance, he's not up to par anymore. And I get it as we get older, but...
Well, as you get older, tunings become lower.
Yeah.
You're singing in different keys.
Yeah, you have to.
Right.
The strain on your body is just too much.
Never mind that, you're going to kill your voice in one or two gigs.
Right.
So if you don't do that,
right,
then your voice is just shot.
But I do have to say this, and I know there was a rumor about some of the guys in Crue maybe using lip syncing or guitar syncing or bass syncing or whatever the case may be.
Backing tracks.
I'm not against them, but they should not replace the lead track. Like if your lead singer can't handle it anymore, don't use a backing track. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can understand backing tracks are helpful to fill the sound, maybe even give you backing vocals that you don't necessarily have. But if your guy standing in the spotlight can't handle it anymore, maybe it's time for him just to take a break or step aside and let somebody else handle it for a minute.
Well, look at it like this, right? Like, and this is in a lot of bands. Just because they can harmonize in the studio, don't mean they can get it right live.
Right, that's a big point. Getting it right live is huge and a lot harder.
Now, I mean, like, obviously you and I have been through a lot of concerts, I should say. Yeah. And, the average person won't really notice it because they're not feeling the music. We're feeling the music, and we're listening to every little thing.
And as DJs, it's part of like our DNA, like,
right.
I know like most people just hear music and whatever's on is just fine. But, when you're a DJ, you're listening for something special all the time. You hear tons of trash and you're always looking for that diamond, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Something that's going to make a crowd go wild.
Right. And with Motley Crue and John Corabi's album, it doesn't get enough love. I got to be honest. That's a phenomenal album. I wish they would have done more with him. But, as far as profitability, that's why Vince is back in the band. And usually that's the reason why a lot of the guys come back. Right. Eventually side projects are only good until they're not making any money anymore. And then you realize, hey, I might need to pay some bills and go back to what I was doing.
I mean, it's just like Corabi now. He's with the Daisies.
Right. Great band.
Excellent band. They got it.
Yeah.
He even sounds great live.
Yeah, John's a great singer. I mean, again, I've heard he's done acoustic shows too, and
yes,
I really, really dig his vibe. I mean, again, I would have really liked to have heard one more John Corabi Motley Crue album. I really would have.
Corabi actually did some acoustic stuff with Kiss.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, they did like the Kiss cruises,
Okay.
and he joined like certain members of Kiss up on the stage, which I believe was like Eric Singer, Bruce Kulick.
Very cool.
They did stuff like Hard Luck Woman, and
Right.
probably Beth. More of the slower stuff, but they did it. It sounded great.
Very
and
cool.
actually, John was singing too.
Very cool.
I'm sure the other two.
Yeah, he doesn't sound like Vince Neil, but I got to be honest, I really like that Motley Crue album, Hooligan's Holiday. That's a banging song. I mean, any band that would have put that out.
And they also released an acoustic song, which was a slower ballad. I forget the name of it, but they did a video for it.
Oh, did they?
And definitely, I wish I could remember the name of the song, but just the same, it fit for the time period.
Right on.
It totally fit for the time period. And
it was on that. It was on that
yes.
album. Then I know I've heard it because again, when that album came out, I played it all the time. I really did. I was hooked on one or two songs, but as a body of work, I thought it was a solid Motley Crue album. Maybe not the traditional Motley Crue, but I definitely saw that was a possibility for Motley Crue in the future.
Right, but again, at that point, it was time for change.
Right.
Vince was going through stuff, obviously.
A lot of personal issues. I know he had a child that was very ill for a long time.
Right. And that was going on. He had did that bout in jail. But that was only like a month, but
yeah,
that's enough to, change your whole view on things.
Right on.
And then I believe it was a long while after Corabi had left the band that Vince was back in.
Yeah, it was definitely a money play. It was definitely a money play because, again, Motley Crue without Vince is not really Motley Crue, but I really like the stuff that they put out with John Corabi. I can't not put any kind of shade to that album at all. That's just a solid album.
It's a very solid album. And I mean, at least Corabi's still making great rock and roll.
Yeah, and shout out to John Corabi, man.
Absolutely.
So our next band that we want to talk about is one of my favorites. Now, this band influenced me as a 13-year-old child and messed me up for life because I love them so much, and it's the one and only Judas Priest. And some people don't realize, but Rob Halford wasn't the original singer. There was a singer named Al Atkins, which I don't know if they have any recordings with him available, but everybody else knows his replacement as Rob Halford, the one and only. And Rob, he's the metal god. You can't take that away. And then Tim Ripper Owens replaced Rob Halford when Rob Halford went on to a solo career. Now, I know John's more familiar with Ripper's stuff than I am. I can only talk about the Rob Halford era Priest. That is my favorite.
Oh, Ripper, he was an amicable replacement for Rob Halford when he left. And, he did a couple albums with Priest, 2 studio albums and 3 live albums.
Right on.
And,
do you know if any of those albums saw any kind of success?
I believe the second one did more than the first because at that point then they were used to him.
Right, okay.
Because it was 96 that the first one came out, and then 2003 when the second came out. But in between, there was a bunch of live albums.
Very cool.
Now, we also have a comment. I'm not sure exactly where it's coming from.
I can't read the screen.
Led Zeppelin from...
Led Zeppelin, I'm not sure exactly. I can't really read what the comment says.
It was about when was Motley Crue ever good and listenable?
Yes, Motley Crue was good and listenable. My favorite era of Motley Crue is the first 2 albums. That's, glam rock back in the day. When those 2 albums came out, that was a big deal.
I believe Too Fast for Love came out in like 83.
Yeah, and there was the leather versions that came out, I believe, in 82. Which was like the independently released Motley Crue version of the album. A friend of mine had a copy of it. It was great. I mean, that's just it was. We heard that Live Wire. great rock and roll song. That's my favorite era of
Piece of Your Action.
Yeah, that's my favorite era of Motley Crue. There was a question about Led Zeppelin.
No, actually, the gentleman that's
that's his
commenting is Led Zeppelin from For Tonight, something like that.
Okay. Well,
I can't even see. I'm blind as a bat.
Right on.
Looking at a small computer screen.
Well, a lot of people know about Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was an offshoot of the Yardbirds, and they performed as the New Yardbirds briefly before becoming Led Zeppelin. And as far as our conversation, that's where they fit in. That originally they were the Yardbirds with a different bunch of guys playing, and eventually they morphed into Led Zeppelin. But we wanted to mention something more about Ripper, right?
Yeah. So I believe it was 96 that Ripper was introduced to Judas Priest.
Okay.
And it was 96. And he was with them till about 2003, 2005-ish maybe. And, he did everything that he could do with the band. A couple studio albums, like I said, a couple of live albums. More live than studio.
Yeah, from what I understand, I've seen Ripper perform live. He's a phenomenal singer, but I didn't see him perform with Judas Priest. Right. So I don't know. I heard he was like better than Rob, and I can understand that. He was a younger guy, not as road worn as Rob, maybe, but yeah, I heard nothing but good things about Ripper. I mean, he's still performing to this day. In fact, I heard he lost a bunch of weight, so I want to congratulate him on that, keeping himself healthy to be able to rock and roll. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's actually going out with KK Downing.
Oh, okay.
With KK's
Priest?
Yeah.
I haven't seen them yet. I want to see them. Love KK Downing. He's one of my faves.
They actually did play locally here at Starland, I believe it was last summer.
Very cool.
And, doing all the Priest classics plus new stuff that they invented together.
Right on.
I also saw Ripper at Starland Ballroom back in, I believe it was 2017. And it was with a band called Dark Sky Choir.
Okay.
At the time, it was my buddy Fred Gorhow, who I speak about a lot. Chuck would say it's my man crush, but that's not the case,
He played, but didn't he play with Joey Stabile too?
Yes, Joey Stabile was in the band. Mike Sikowski from Explorer, and Hollywood Howie Portney.
Okay.
And you want to talk about a voice? This guy could hit all them Priest crazy stuff too.
Right on. Yeah, I was impressed with him. I mean, Rob Halford's shoes, nobody can fill those shoes. So you got to always do your own thing, But I heard nothing but great things. And when I saw him, I thought he was a great singer. So I can't throw any shade on Ripper for sure.
But listen, the dude's like 70-something years old, right?
Rob, yeah.
Okay. And he can still do what he does. He can still go on tour.
Yeah.
Do, 200 dates and fill a room. I mean, they went crazy at PNC last summer.
That's awesome.
I mean, and even Glenn Tipton made his way out.
Yeah. I was at the show in Florida where Glenn announced his retirement, and everybody was shocked, because nobody knew.
No.
And they kind of just did it on the stage like, hey, this is going to be Glenn's last, for a long time. He'll come out once in a while. But everybody's like, how is Priest going to go on without Glenn? But, I mean, it's gone on without Rob. It's gone on without KK.
I'll tell you what, Richie Faulkner is a hell of a guitar player.
I got no shade, man. Those guys are phenomenal. Richie's a great guitar player. The gentleman that replaced Glenn's a great guitar player.
Yes, he actually is a producer.
Right on.
From what I understand.
Very cool.
Very cool. Judas Priest, no matter what, you see the name, it doesn't matter who's playing.
It's going to be solid.
It's going to be rock solid because they do that whole...
They are the Priests.
Right. They do that quality control, and they make sure before auditioning somebody that they can handle the role.
Right on. Right on.
But I mean, Richie Faulkner is as close to KK as you're going to get.
Again, phenomenal guitar player, man. No shade at all.
Just like Ripper
No
was
shade.
just as close to Rob as you're going to get.
Right.
You know, he was a younger Rob.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I mean, again, there's only one Rob Halford. Those are tremendous shoes to even fill.
And I got to give Rob Halford a lot of credit, because when Dolly Parton was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as was Judas Priest on the same night, he came out again and did Jolene with Dolly Parton.
I missed that. That's fun.
That's definitely fun. But also, you had Pat Benatar on the stage, you had Pink on the stage, you had Sheryl Crow on the stage, which Sheryl Crow gets in on everything. You know.
Like Sheryl Crow.
Oh, she's amazing.
Right on.
So what do we got next on the list here?
Talking about heavyweights, you got AC/DC, a huge fan favorite.
Geez.
And, you know, they're one of those few bands that their original singer, even though he passed at a tragic time in their trajectory, they were solid with him. And then their replacement, Brian Johnson, well, that broke world records. I mean, AC/DC Back in Black, that's a worldwide smash, you know? Can't take anything away. And
No. As was Dirty Deeds.
yeah,
High Voltage,
I mean,
you know.
solid albums before and after. You know, if you like your rock and roll, AC/DC is definitely one of the greatest rock and roll bands.
Absolutely. They, hands down. I mean, some of the places that we've worked in over the years, you know, they were that grindy,
Yeah,
what was needed.
right. They're that slightly sexy, grindy, mischievous rock and roll.
Now, if there was anybody that could replace Brian Johnson, I would have to say, hands down, would be Jesse James Dupree from Jackal.
I can see that. That would be fun.
He would be the only one close. I mean, they did the thing with Axl Rose
Yeah.
when he broke his foot and he had to go on stage in a wheelchair. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, Axl Rose could definitely do it. But, you know,
That wasn't a permanent thing. That was just a
get through the tour type
get through
thing.
the tour. Right. Let me help you out kind of thing. But yeah, man, I mean, Bon Scott, legendary singer and performer. Brian Johnson, again, huge shoes to fill, and he filled them. And then some. Because, again, Brian Johnson has got his own legacy. You know, it's not like AC/DC was a band that only rested on Bon Scott's legacy, like a lot of other bands that it does happen to. Brian Johnson, he put his mark on their music, and everybody loved it. I mean, there was no denying that they're still a great band.
You know, then you go to talking about the band itself.
Right.
Then you talk about the Young Brothers.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, Malcolm's no longer with us, but, you know, they were that iconic 1-2 punch.
Oh, really? I mean, and especially because they were brothers. Like, that's it. I know it's going to sound corny, but when you're close to your brother like that, it's almost like you don't even have to say anything. You just kind of know what each other's thinking.
It's a special bond.
Yeah, it's just a special bond. And to be able to play in such a tremendously successful band with your brother, that's got to be such an amazing feeling.
But, you know, they look like the type of guys to me that don't really look at the whole success of it.
No, they're just too busy in the moment.
They play, actually, more or less for the love of the game. They like playing music.
Yeah.
That's what they were born to do. That's what they're gonna do. Well,
High voltage rock and roll.
yes, sir. And you know, AC/DC, I mean, they're even touring this summer.
Very cool. Wasn't aware.
They don't get to Jersey until September,
Hopefully, they'll be back.
but they'll be here. They're playing MetLife,
Okay.
so they're doing a stadium thing,
Very cool.
which, you know, that stadium will be crazy.
I saw them. The most recent tour that I saw them was, and this is going back to the '90s, was the Razor's Edge tour. Who Made Who?
Okay.
And I remember during the concert, they just released all this money out of the ceiling, and it was all Angus bucks. Had his little face on, instead of George Washington, had his face in it. That was pretty fun.
Now, that was also Who Made Who was also in a movie, right?
I believe that was
because I know Tesla had a song in that.
It was
Last Action Hero.
Was that Who Made Who?
Or
because I thought Maximum Overdrive is the Stephen King novel that was made into a movie that I know AC/DC did a song for. I thought it was Who Made Who.
Actually, no. But I'm wrong on that because Shake Your Foundations came on the Last Action Hero soundtrack.
Okay. Right on.
That's what it was. And also Tesla had something on there.
Another great band.
Yeah.
But
still hold together, too. Every last one of them.
Right on.
Except Troy Luccketta. He's moved on to something else. The drummer.
Okay. Well, let's talk about our next band. Iron Maiden.
Now, Iron Maiden.
Now, that's a band most people don't realize. I mean, Bruce Dickinson has been the main singer in that band for a long time, but real fans know about Paul Di'Anno. The first two Iron Maiden albums, killing it. I mean, those two albums were just so unique when they came out. But to Bruce's credit, Number of the Beast, when that came out, people just lost their minds.
Yeah.
And after Bruce quit, they had Blaze Bayley singing. I'm not familiar with... I know a lot of times when they've replaced the singers, it's more legacy music and they don't really concentrate on releasing albums. I know Blaze was a phenomenal singer, and I've heard some of his live stuff, but I did not hear any of their recorded material with Blaze and Iron Maiden.
I've never actually heard the man sing.
He's a good singer, real powerful voice.
At that point, I actually thought Maiden was done. I didn't really get
Right.
too into the, the blood and guts of that all. But, during the Dickinson years, I mean, Number of the Beast, Somewhere in Time, quite a few other albums.
Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind was a great album.
Yeah.
Iconic songs. Flight of Icarus, The Trooper.
No, Iron Maiden is definitely one of those bands that their longevity, their fan base, those are to die for kind of fans.
Right.
And again, you're talking about when Ripper replaced Rob Halford, Blaze coming in to replace Bruce, huge shoes to fill. And again, no shade on anybody because those shoes, they're near impossible to fill.
Right.
So the fact that Blaze was given a chance to perform and show his chops and people embraced him because I never heard anything bad about him. You know? I heard he was solid performer on stage and solid in the studio. Again, unfortunately, I haven't heard any of the studio material, but I did hear the live stuff, and he was phenomenal. He was the right man for the job, that's for sure.
But I mean, if you look at like replacement players, there's no other band that did it as well as Whitesnake did.
Yeah.
Okay, which I know they're not on the list, but
yeah.
But you got to give it a mention because...
Well, that's kind of like a cousin to what we're doing is like bands that don't have many of the original members left, and a lot of it has to do with people just aging out, health issues and stuff. They just can't do it anymore. And I totally get that.
I mean, you look at like when they did like the Slide It In album and they did the main Whitesnake album, right? So the Slide It In album, you had John Sykes on there. You had Neil Murray. I actually think you had Ainsley Dunsmore from Journey on one of those albums.
Okay.
And then come that main iconic album, you had all those players on there. And I believe you had either Cozy Powell as a drummer or Ian Pace from Deep Purple, one of the two.
Right on.
But then that all gets scrapped and they put out a Total Glam album. You have Vivian Campbell, you have Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot.
Right.
And at the time, Vivian Campbell, he left
Dio.
Yeah, he left Dio to come on board with those guys. Then you had Tommy Aldridge from Ozzy's band.
Tommy's a great drummer.
and then Adrian Vandenberg. So right there, you had a super group.
Yeah, I remember that tour.
Then you know, the next album, I forget who left. I'm not sure if it was Vivian Campbell or Adrian Vandenberg.
I want to say, I can't remember. I know there was a lineup change, and I know that Vivian wound up joining Def Leppard. I just don't know how soon after Whitesnake he joined.
Right, but that was Steve Vai had stepped in for one of them. I know that,
Okay.
and he did this Slip of the Tongue album with them.
So then Slip of the Tongue, I think that was after the Whitesnake album. So there had to be the next tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at that point with Def Leppard, I believe Steve Clark had passed at that point. It was either like 91, 92-ish.
Okay.
And then, you know, oh, wait a minute. That timeline might be a little bit off. But either way, Steve Clark had passed. And
there was a vacancy and Vivian filled it.
Right, he came in. And then also Vivian Campbell got sick a couple years back. I think you remember that.
I don't.
Well, actually, yeah, he had something cancer related. And in comes Steve Brown from Trickster.
Oh, right on.
He toured with them.
Very cool.
But he was basically, you know, number two, but also if one of them wanted a night off,
right,
he was there.
Very cool. I wasn't aware.
Now Steve Brown is still playing with Trickster, and he's also doing Always Jovi with Freddie.
Right on. You mentioned that with our interview with Chuck.
And he's also doing Wizards of Winter, which is like a TSO type of band.
Very cool.
Christmas metal.
Very cool. Well, I know we're talking about replacement players and stuff like that, but the reason we're talking about singers specifically is that singers have such an impact. I mean, again, they call them frontmen for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, that one guy can truly change the dynamic and the direction of a band. And our next band that we want to talk about is Black Sabbath. I mean, everybody remembers that Ozzy Osbourne is the singer from Black Sabbath, but there were several other singers, including Ronnie James Dio, who went on to create Dio for himself, Ian Gillan, who sang with Deep Purple and solo and joined Black Sabbath for one tour, Glenn Hughes, who also played in Deep Purple and had a solo career, sang with them, Tony Martin, great singer. He played with them for a long time. Ray Gillan, rest in peace. He's a phenomenal singer. Ray played in Badlands.
Yes.
And then Rob Halford was a temporary singer in Black Sabbath, helping out on a tour. I've seen a couple of videos with that. Gotta be saying, it was pretty cool to see Rob and Tony Iommi on stage together.
Yeah, that would definitely do it for me. That's worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah, it was cool. But, I mean, okay, everybody's familiar with Ozzy's music. And then if you're really a big Black Sabbath fan, of course, you know Ronnie James's music. But I am familiar with Ian Gillan's album with Born Again. And the thing I want to talk about is when Ozzy left, Black Sabbath definitely had a specific kind of sound. And then when Ronnie James Dio came in, he changed that.
Yeah.
And I don't think Black Sabbath ever left that sound after Dio left. Because, again, the stuff that I heard with, like Ian Gillan, Born Again, that album's got some great tracks. The production sucks, but it's got some really great tracks on it. Most Black Sabbath fans aren't even familiar with it. Again, Glenn Hughes, Tony Martin era stuff, the Ray Gillan stuff, it's lost to a lot of the Black Sabbath fans. This was the time, like in the 90s, when, you know, they just couldn't find their footing in the rock and roll community. And which is kind of funny because in the 90s, all these grunge bands were playing homage to Black Sabbath,
right?
Like Soundgarden. You know, Soundgarden says, hey, we love the Black Sabbath and we sound like Black Sabbath in certain ways.
Right, but everybody and their grandmother wanted to do War Pigs. I mean, I remember Faith No More did it.
Right.
Ugly Kid Joe did it. There was somewhere else along those lines in there.
But what I'm saying is, there's definitely a divide, like the Van Halen. You either like David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, even though Jerry Sharon is in there as well. Most people only remember Ozzy and Ronnie James Dio. But again, Black Sabbath has had several singers.
Right.
And, you know, again, no shade, because Tony Martin, solid fucking frontman and singer. Ray Gillen, solid frontman and singer. No shade at all. You know, unfortunately, the albums that they performed on didn't do well commercially. And again, it's a shame that a lot of people aren't familiar with their music, because those are some pretty solid albums. But again, here we are talking about the singers and how they can change, you know, the dynamics of the band.
Yeah, well, I mean, usually when somebody gets replaced in a band, it's usually like the bass player or a drummer. Not
Right.
saying that they're not important players to the band.
But I get it. It's, again, the
But it's a
singer's
role.
the face.
It's a role that's easily stepped into,
Yeah.
except if you're Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, again.
You know what I mean? But with being a frontman, that's just the hardest role in anything musical to fill.
Right. Because Led Zeppelin wouldn't be the same without Robert Plant.
Right.
And it's not even the fact that Robert Plant did or didn't write the music, you know? It's just that Robert Plant's vocal stylings and creativity were unique to him.
I mean, listen, at that point in time, when Led Zeppelin was going full strength, okay, that kid from Greta Van Fleet wasn't even thought of yet.
Right. And while we're talking about classic rock era bands, excuse me, Deep Purple is another one of those bands. Now, we're talking about Ian Gillan being in Black Sabbath, but most people know him as the singer from Deep Purple. But before him was a guy named Rod Evans, who sang most famously on the song Hush, which really broke Deep Purple as a band.
Yeah.
You know? And then once Ian Gillan was in the band, I mean, Smoke on the Water, My Woman from Tokyo, you know, just...
Can't forget Highway Star.
Highway Star. I mean, you just can't, you know? A lot of people don't realize that after Ian Gillan left, you had David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes both singing. David Coverdale was more the front man than Glenn Hughes, because Glenn was playing bass. But still, they shared vocal duties on Deep Purple's albums, and they were almost as successful as the Ian Gillan version of Deep Purple. There were also different band members that came and left, as far as like when Richie Blackmore left. Mark Bolan was playing guitar. But again, we're sticking to the singers because those are, for lack of a better expression, the face of the band.
Right.
You know, their vocals do, again, like how John Corabi, his music with Motley Crue is very different than the music that Vince Neil and Motley Crue put out together. Deep Purple went through the same thing. The different variations of Deep Purple, I feel they got better, but due to the 70s being one hell of a drug, they all fell apart.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
So, I don't know, do you have any favorite Deep Purple songs? Or
I really like the reunion album, Perfect Strangers.
Saw that tour. That was a phenomenal
So
tour.
that was 84.
Great album.
I was all of in 8th grade at that point.
That was a great album. And yeah, it was a great tour. I got to say, I'm glad I got to see that tour, because that really was the consummate Deep Purple.
I was in the press boxes.
Oh, cool.
At the old Brendan Byrne Arena in the Meadowlands complex. And that was actually my very first concert.
Very fun.
And then I saw them again, I'm going to say it was 88, 89, when Guns N' Roses, it was Guns N' Roses, Deep Purple, and Aerosmith.
Oh, that's a cool lineup.
And it was at Giant Stadium. Everybody who was anybody was hanging out in general admission.
Right on.
And up in the stands and all that. You know, I was actually hanging out with the guys from Anthrax.
Fun.
Yeah. I think I smoked a joint with friggin' Frank Bello and Charlie.
Very fun.
And, you know, that was Actually, that was the day the Paradise City video was shot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
You know, you seen like the whole swinging cameras and everything, you know, going out, you know, over the audience and then zooming back into the stage. You know, you didn't have what you had today.
I hear you. I hear you.
Which today would probably be all drone footage.
I'm guilty. But hey, you mentioned Anthrax, so let's talk about Anthrax real quick.
Okay.
Now, a lot of Anthrax fans know about Joey Belladonna because he's their longest singer. And some people might even know that John Bush from Armored Saint,
Yes.
he sang with them. But Neil Turbin was their original singer. He sang with them on their first album. Joey came in, and they blew up. I mean, I got to give props to Joey. Another great front man. He was the right man for the job at the time. And truly, his era of Anthrax is the one that's going to be remembered. But I got to shed props to John Bush.
Yeah.
Because that album that he plays with them on is banging.
Yeah.
And I don't think it got enough credit. Again, like that Motley Crue album with Karabi. The Bush album with Anthrax is banging. And I do love Joey Belladonna.
Well, I mean, you know, you look at the songs. I mean, you go back to the Armed and Dangerous album, Armed and Dangerous, Medusa, AIR, then Among the Living. You know, everything off of that.
Partial, A Fistful of Metal.
Yeah, that was an EP, if I'm not mistaken, right? Then what was the State of Euphoria? That was a little on the lighter side, but more commercial.
Still, they were just such a great band. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, all the songs are just,
every concert I saw with Anthrax, and most of them were at Lemoore,
right.
man, they just whipped the crowd into a frenzy. And I was always so much fun to watch them do that, because these guys, that everybody that went to see them play wanted to be there.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like, oh, who's this band Anthrax? I think I'll just show up. No, everybody was at that show, and they knew that they were going to have a good time.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you had your core back then. You had Metallica, you had Anthrax, you had Slayer. There were so many more. I just,
You had Megadeth in there. Yeah.
You had Megadeth in there.
And then, of course, you had the East Coast guys. You had Overkill, Anthrax again, you know?
Actually, Overkill and Testament just played locally.
Yeah, Starland.
Yeah, last Saturday night, I believe it was.
Heard it was a
Friday
badass
night.
show.
It was packed.
Right on.
I didn't go, but I know you couldn't get in there.
Yeah, they were sold out. It was sold out. But while we're talking about Anthrax, you can't talk about Anthrax and not talk about Pantera.
This is true.
So everybody knows that Phil is the singer in Pantera, but at one time there was a gentleman by the name of Terry Glaze. And that was when they were doing their glam rock phase.
Yes.
Have you ever heard any of the music from that era?
Yes, I have.
And what's your opinion of it?
It's not them.
Well, definitely not them. But was it any good?
It was okay.
It's okay. All right. Well, then they definitely made the right decision by getting Phil in the band.
Right.
Because everything they did that.
Well, the thing is, they changed it up 1,000%.
Yeah, they definitely went in a different direction.
You know, the heavier.
They sounded great.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, Phil was just a roar in his own right.
I got to work with them at the Fast Lane in New Jersey.
Asbury Park.
Yeah, the Cowboys from Hell tour.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I mean, really, it was interesting to see them in a nightclub. I mean, I've seen them in the arenas, but in a nightclub setting, I mean, again, people were just losing their minds, and they were phenomenal.
Well, that was just like the Fast Lane used to run battles of the bands all the time.
Yeah.
And that was like their Sunday night showcase, right?
Well, the nights I worked was on Saturdays, so they would, like, the promoter at the time, it was Brian Nelson.
Yes.
And he brought in Soundgarden, he brought in Pantera. He was definitely progressive in the bands that he wanted to bring into the area.
Right. I mean, Brian Nelson, great guy, know him well from
Right on.
back then. Him and another guy, Al Rocinio, who's actually a lawyer in Ocean Township. He does like entertainment law and stuff like that. But, you know,
Right on.
he's still your guy if you get
If you
caught.
need- If you get caught rocking and rolling,
that's it. And so there was this one battle that was going on, and it was like a month-long thing. So it came down to the last night, and whoever won that night would go on the next day to open up for Bon Jovi at the Fast Lane. Now, this is 1992.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
And I'm going to say it was probably close to the release of Slippery.
Oh, wow. So that had to be back in 86 then.
No,
Slippery When Wet came out around 1986.
Well, then...
Because the New Jersey album came out later.
Okay, then that's what it was then. It was the New Jersey album.
That was a great album, too.
Because, yeah, that's right, because they all had, like... Well, John just had cut his hair off.
Right.
You know, no more poof. He looked like Mr. Model.
Like Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, you're freaking calling him Dalton and shit. But, and it came down, you know, there was quite a few good bands there. A friend of mine's band, they were called Jealous Rage.
Cool.
They were in like the top 5. But at the time, Mr. Reality, they won it, which, you know, they were tight with Brian Nelson and all them guys.
Very cool.
But Gordon Brown, who was the guitar player in that band, he actually is in a country band now called Williams Honor, along with Reagan Richards, who's an amazing singer. You know, if there was a female version of Robert Plant, that's her.
Oh, right on.
This woman can sing anything.
That's awesome.
From Robert Plant to Patsy Cline.
Okay.
To Tammy Wynette. And back to probably something heavy.
Right on.
But yeah, you know, that's they got the Duke, and I went to that show actually, and seeing, you know, Bon Jovi in an arena, and then seeing them at the Fast Lane,
right on,
place that friggin' held
excuse me,
200 people max in Asbury Park.
Yeah,
yeah. You know what I mean? It's like fitting 10 pounds of shit in a 1 pound bag in there. That's just the way that goes.
Right on. Well, the next band on our list, talking about a little Black Sabbath influence, a little Alice in Chains. Everybody remembers Lane Staley was the original singer. Lane and Jerry Cantrell, of course. But after Lane died, they were in limbo for years. And I was a big Alice in Chains fan. I mean, it broke my heart that those guys were not able to perform for so long. And then, what was it, back in the 2000s? Was when William Duvall joined the band.
Yeah, but it wasn't somewhere in between there. Didn't Jeff Scott Soto hook up with them?
I'm not even familiar. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Because Jeff also hooked up with Journey for a minute, too.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Right
and
before.
Jeff's a great singer. I mean, God.
Yeah, I think he was literally right before Arnell.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
I wasn't aware. But for you Alice in Chains fans, you know, everybody was like, oh, you can't really replace Lane. And, of course, you really can't. But, yo, I got to give props to William Duvall. He's a phenomenal singer. He's a really good guitar player. And he fits the band really well. So if you're an Alice in Chains fan, you definitely should check him out, man.
Absolutely.
No shade on William Duvall at all. You know, will they ever reach the pinnacle of what they, you know, the success they had back in the 90s? I think that window's kind of closed. Who knows what the future will bring? But, yo, Alice in Chains, they are a solid band, and they're still performing. Definitely go see them.
I mean, you know, once you get, you know, in that 90s vibe, you know, there was a core. You had them, you had Soundgarden, you had Pearl Jam.
Well, I got to work with Soundgarden at the Fast Lane, man. They were great.
Oh, I could just imagine.
They were great.
You know, anything that Chris Cornell did was amazing. I mean, even when they did Temple of the Dog with Eddie Vedder.
That's a really Temple of the Dog, man. That whole project, I don't know how many people are familiar with Mother Love Bone and Andrew Wood, but the Temple of the Dog project, man, that was such a big deal. And a lot of people don't realize that if that never happened, Pearl Jam would not exist.
No. Not at all.
You know, and there's a lot of Pearl Jam fans, me being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. They came out with a lot of great music.
Yeah.
You know, and that was that early 90s crossover again. You know, we were crossing over from hair metal, thrash metal, to what they now call grunge.
Yeah.
Well, they called it grunge back then, too. But
Yeah. But, you know, it was an interesting time in history back then because a lot of bands that were used to coasting, and when I say coasting, they were popping out the bubblegum hits.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they found themselves that nobody cared what they were putting out anymore. Exactly. And it happened overnight. And it happened, again, fast, that people's heads spun. Like,
right.
Everybody started scrambling to try to make some kind of a grunge album. And some people were successful with it, but most people weren't.
There was this one band, and me and my friend Dominic still make fun of it to this one day. It was called, forget what the hell. They had a real stupid name, but they sung a song called, like, it was either Vaseline or Gasoline, and it wasn't Stone Temple Pilots either.
No,
and it kind of had
Glycerine?
No,
that was Bush.
Yeah, that was Bush.
Okay.
But it sounded like some shit you'd hear over like Sesame Street.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it.
What the hell was the name of this band? I'll think of it probably when we're off the air.
Just shout it out.
Yeah, I'll be singing this shit in my sleep tonight.
That's funny. Well, going back to the 80s and 90s, let's talk about Skid Row, because we're going to be talking about something about Skid Row, or about one of the
related
former members.
to it.
Yeah, related to Skid Row. That's the word I was looking for. But Skid Row, their original singer was a guy named Matt Fallon, who also briefly played with Anthrax. Sebastian was his replacement. And then after Sebastian, you've had John Corabi, who sang with Motley Crue also, Johnny Solinger, and Eric Gronwall, who recently left for health reasons. And currently Skid Row is in the process of looking for a new lead singer. And I know John's been following that journey, so I'm going to let him talk about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you know, not for nothing, what Skid Row has done, they partnered up with Sweetwater, the music company that sells guitars and, you know, gear and all that kind of stuff.
Right on.
And they're sponsoring the whole singer search.
Is it like a reality show? Like, are they showing the backgrounds of the guys, or they're just showing the auditions?
They're just showing basically people taping themselves.
Okay.
You know, whether it could be like, let's say, a setting like this, or a sound stage, or whatever the case may be. And they're really doing like the same couple songs. They're doing Monkey Business a lot.
That's a hard song to sing.
They're doing Youth Gone Wild a lot.
It's another hard song to sing.
18 in Life.
See, Sebastian's got some big shoes to fill, man. I mean, I know Johnny was a really good singer, and I know Eric was with them for years.
Well, actually, Eric was only with them for a couple years.
Oh, really? I thought he was in the band longer than that.
No, he started out actually doing a lot of YouTube stuff.
Okay.
And the last thing he did before he joined Skid Row was a cover of Nilsson's Without You.
Great song.
And believe me when I tell you, he could hit everything that Sebastian Bach hit.
Wow.
Okay. But doing something like Nilsson, which is, you know, iconic 70s type stuff, you know, that's a heartfelt song. You know, and Mariah Carey did it as well.
I didn't remember that. That's funny.
And, you know, those like big screams at the end.
Yeah. He belted out.
Bone chilling. But you can't forget also, after Eric, Skid Row still had some shows left.
That's right. Lizzie Hale did. She stepped in.
Yeah, and she nailed it.
I was gonna say I heard a lot of great shit about Lizzie. I've seen her play with her band.
Yes.
She's great, and I bet you it was a lot of fun seeing her play with Skid Row.
And I'll tell you what, you know, not for nothing, Lizzie Hale does a lot of covers. Okay. They recently did Shooting Star.
Oh yeah?
From Bad Company.
Great song.
You know, she just takes the stuff and makes it her own.
Right on.
You know, she did All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You from Heart.
That's a great song.
You know, and she did it her way, and her way worked. She even did some Lady Gaga stuff.
Cool.
She did a version of Separate Ways with Chris Daughtry.
But the Journey song?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Killed it. Both of them together, it was like a power duo.
Right on.
You know. So now let's get to
so
what's in the news currently.
The news, the whole reason why John and I said, hey, let's talk about this is in rock and roll, the big news, Twisted Sister will be performing with Sebastian Bach, replacing Dee Snider. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about this. Now, I'm going to let John talk for a minute because I'm going to say what I got to say for after you're done.
Okay, so
what do you think about it?
I think that if somebody could do it, it is Sebastian Bach.
I agree.
But I'm going to have to say Sebastian Bach 20 years ago.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Don't get me wrong, I've seen him over the last couple of years. There's energy there. Here was this kid that came into Skid Row. He had the looks. He had the voice. You know, he had everything. He came over from a band called Madam X, which he was in with Roxy Petrucci from Vixen.
Right.
And I don't know. I can't see anybody else singing those songs but Dee Snider.
I hear you.
Because Dee Snider just gives... He was Twisted Sister.
You know, here's a guilty confession. So, when I was in high school, Twisted Sister used to play at this nightclub in Staten Island called the Rock Palace. I mean, they played all over Staten Island. There was the Factory. There was a bunch of places, and I was a little too young to be going to these places. But
you went anyway?
I did. I had a girlfriend who would pick me up from night school, and we would go to the Rock Palace and go see Twisted Sister like on a Thursday night. And they were phenomenal, man. I mean, they were still playing covers. They were still playing, I don't know if for you old Twisted Sister fans out there, Ladies Boy. That's a great song. Still singing I Know It's Only Rock and Roll, But I Like It by the Stones. Dee is such an enigma on stage. I mean, he's my favorite singer of all time, you know, next to Rob Halford. But Dee's energy is just like 200%.
Yeah, well, he has that appeal.
And that's what him and Sebastian have in common, that energy.
Yeah.
So when you say that Sebastian, you could see, I could see that. Are they the same type of singer? I think Sebastian was a better quality singer. I don't want to knock Dee because, again, Dee's the fucking man when it came to singing on stage, being the front man. But Dee's voice was not as gentle or as soft as Sebastian could be.
Right, but you see, Sebastian,
you know, there's different kind of music.
Where his versatility comes in, he can do a scream.
Yes.
But he could also sing a ballad.
Right.
And incorporate that scream in there.
Right.
And make it work.
Right.
Now, Twisted Sister, on the other hand, the only ballad that I remember them doing was The Price.
I was just going to say, The Price. They had one or two slow songs. I don't know if you're familiar with the Love Is for Suckers album. That they had one or two slow songs.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're right. They're not known for being a gentle band.
No, not at all.
You know, I mean, when Dee Snider said, "You fucking poser sitting in the back of the room with your arms folded, I want to see you freaking raising your hands and screaming, I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it." He meant that shit.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't trying to be smooth about it.
No, not at all.
He was like a broken beer bottle in your face, man. You know, and you either loved it or you hated it.
You know,
I loved it.
He also did that show Wife Swap.
I never saw it. That's funny.
And I'm gonna say he was doing a wife swap with Flavor Flav.
Oh, That must have been insane.
You know, it was probably, you know, not too long after the Bridget Nielsen thing with Flavor Flav.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he married somebody else. I think it was off of that
That's insane.
Flavor of Love show that he married somebody.
That's insane.
But it was hysterical. And, you know, D being D, you know, didn't really give a shit what came out of his mouth.
No, and he's an intelligent guy. I got to give him props.
Right.
But talking about Sebastian being in Twisted Sister, I think everybody, now the way I understand it, and I'm not somebody who's on the inside, but the way it was explained to me was that it's not like he's joining the band so that they can put out albums.
Right.
He's joining the band so that they can tour, you know, and they're all going to make a little extra money, which is
Right.
great. And of course, bring that Twisted Sister music, because at this point it's JJ and Eddie, and there's a different bass player, different drummer.
Right. The drummer is actually also an Always Jovi.
Oh, right on. Okay. So with that being said, you know, it's just like a tribute to Twisted Sister more than like joining the band. And I appreciate that. That's the one thing. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of pooping on it. I want to see it. I think Sebastian would be a hell of a lot of fun singing all the old Twisted Sister songs.
He definitely is a fun guy, you know what I mean?
I could definitely see the crowd getting into it. I definitely think he's got the right personality. I know he could do D. I don't think D could do him.
Right.
You know? But that's okay. It's all rock and roll, right?
That's it. You know, it's theatrics, and, you know, being a singer, especially doing somebody else's music, it's more like being an impressionist.
Right.
You know, you do what justice you can to their music.
Right. And a lot of the guys that we mentioned on the list, you know, specifically like Ripper and Blaze, you know, those guys were hired to sing the legacy stuff.
Right.
You know, whatever recordings they may have had, it was more about the touring why those guys, because those guys were solid singers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't take anything away from them. But they would definitely, as opposed to like Brian Johnson, when he was hired, he was in AC/DC as a member.
Right.
You know, and then again, whatever music came out of that, you know, that was to their benefit.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
But I love the idea that Sebastian is going to be singing with Twisted Sister. As far as Sebastian with Skid Row, I know everybody would love to see that happen. I know from what I understand that it's not going to happen because there's just too much water under the bridge.
Right.
You know, too many bad feelings and whatever. But I think it'll be a lot of fun to see Sebastian singing with Twisted Sister. I think that would be great. JJ should be up there with Eddie and just rocking it out, you know.
It's going to be a good time.
I don't expect, now it would be hysterical, but I don't expect Sebastian to come out in D's pink and black spandex.
No.
That would be hysterical if he did, but I don't see that happening.
And if he did it, it would really just kind of be in his personality.
Right.
Because he is a jokester.
Right.
So, you know, that would be him, like, just breaking balls.
I hear you. Well,
but we'll see, you know, time will tell. I mean, I don't think the tour is going to be like crazily long. I think it's probably going to be maybe
a few historic events.
Yeah, maybe 30, 40 shows. Tops.
Oh, I hope I'm around to see them when they play, man, because that's going to be fun.
Well, I'm hoping they're playing locally.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? Maybe they might have another one of those.
They're from the area.
One of those food truck festivals. And
that might be fun.
Well, they actually did the one that was down at the Lakewood Blue Claws Park down there.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's in Lakewood, obviously.
Right.
And they're a Philadelphia Phillies minor league affiliate team.
Okay.
But they have a beautiful stadium down there. I think it's called First Energy Park. And for like 2 years, they had like a big food truck festival there. But they also had every band under the storm.
Right on.
You know, they had 2 stages. One of them they called the Birch Hill stage. which you had You know, you had the bands like TT Quick, American Angel.
Right on.
Couple others from back in the day. And, you know, it was a good time. I mean, most of the time that I was out on the, you know, out by the main stage. But, you know, I did slip back, and that was the one and only time that I saw TT Quick live.
Great band. Shout out to Dave DiPietro.
Dave, if you're watching, I'll definitely see you soon, brother.
Yeah. And you guys, I mean, that's a band. To get off topic real quick, TT Quick was one of those great bands that worked so hard in the clubs. And they really, I know Mark's doing well. He's the new singer in Accept, and he's been in there Accept for like, what, 15 years?
Easy.
But TT Quick was definitely one of those bands that deserved greater success than what they got. They were a great band.
Absolutely. And they're, you know, I'm sure we haven't heard the last of them.
Hope not. I hope not. I heard that Dave and Kenny from Prophet were playing together for just doing a little jam session. I saw that on Facebook. I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kenny from Prophet too.
Actually, that was last Saturday night at MJ's down in Brick.
Oh, cool.
So if I would have known that they were playing,
Hell yeah.
I would have stopped in on my way home from work.
Right on.
Yeah, you know, also Dave has a new music academy.
You were telling me about
It's
that.
called North Shore Music Academy or Music School. It's in on Route 35 in Hazlitt. It's the
Very
old
cool.
Absolute Music.
Okay.
So if any of your kids are looking for guitar lessons, drum lessons, vocal lessons, go see Dave over there. He'll hook you up. And they, you know, it's definitely great for kids that are just starting out.
Very cool.
And he also has adult courses. He also has a recording studio there. He also has a huge live room where they do shows and stuff.
That's awesome.
So
Very cool.
So anyway,
Well, John, do you have anything else you want to add to our little conversation here?
I think we just about covered all the bases tonight.
All right.
So I think
Well, I want to send a shout out to all you guys that were watching. There you are, right over there. If you guys have any suggestions, put them down in the comments. Love to hear from you. And even if you just want to say hello and tell us where you're from, love to hear from you guys.
on that note, it's your Uncle Fatty along here with Dave O. Good night, God bless, and we'll see you again very, very soon.
Peace out, y'all.
Good night.
Secret in the sky tonight, a streak of magic caught in the light. It's calling your name, so don't resist. Grab your shoes, baby, come see this. Come see this, the world's on fire. The stars above, they never tire. The ground that shakes with every kiss. Oh, you don't wanna miss. Come see this. Dancer in a silver gown, the wings a whisper that won't back down. The night's alive with a fearless twist. Take my hand and come see this. Come see this, the world's on fire. The stars above, they never tire. The ground that shakes with every kiss. Oh, you don't wanna miss. Come see this. Time's a thief, but it will steal tonight. We'll chase the edge till the morning light. The universe leans in for our tryst. Hold on tight and come see this. Come see this, the world's on fire. The stars above, they never tire. The ground that shakes with